Up there in the control room. You're doing such a great job. Thank you. You look as great. And then your rain and wind. The trees are moving, but as you see in typical nor'easters, the wind is, there, present, but it's not necessarily looking like it's vicious right now. We still have that tornado watch up until 11 o'clock for parts of southern Connecticut and Rhode Island, our neighbors south and west, but it does not extend into Massachusetts. It is one of those things where we'll just be dealing with those heavy thunderstorms. We do have a flood advisory, though, and that is going in a flood watch up from the canal all the way up into southern New Hampshire. And we do have flooding. It is happening now across parts of westernmost Massachusetts. Let me get my finger in the right spot. Flash flood warnings now out through Berkshire County and up into southern Vermont, too. Inundating rains. I mean, this is really the other part of the story where you don't get the wind. You're just getting buried in water right now. And in some cases, the rivers are really going to be surging through the night tonight. So flash flooding is an issue with this storm. Irene, her last card to play, these wind gusts and also the flash flooding. She's going to rain herself out over the mountains of Vermont and western Massachusetts here in the next couple of hours. So beware. If told to evacuate from flash flooding, you got to move it. There's no fooling around with these tropical downpours, folks. Dylan, over to you.
And Pete, also we have to keep an eye out for those, the potential for some storm surges down near Buzzards Bay, especially later on this evening. So while the rest of us are starting to see conditions just dramatically improve by later on today, that area will have to deal with the potential of some coastal flooding. So through this morning, the heaviest of the rain, we're talking the rain that just comes down in buckets and doesn't let up. That has been to the west and the northwest of this storm. The showers here include those bands of heavy rain, those fingers of just downpours that have also brought down the wind as well. But watch what happens as we go into tonight. Those showers turn into really light showers. We lose the threat of heavier rain, and we could even see some clearing through the night. And by tomorrow morning, we are back to sunshine. But we are talking about that storm surge again. By 8, 9 o'clock, we have an astronomically high tide down near Buzzards Bay. Everywhere else across the Cape and Islands, the high tide is not until midnight. But in this area, the high tide is around 8 to 9 o'clock tonight. Winds still going and pushing all of this water up here, but then it has nowhere to go. So it's kind of like a bathtub, and you push it all to one end, and then it just kind of goes out the side. So unfortunately, that's what we're going to be seeing here as that persistent wind pushes that water towards the shore, and we could end up with a storm surge of 4 to 5 feet on top of an astronomically high tide, which is actually running around 4.5 feet. So that's why, while the rest of us will be drying out as far as the rain falling and winds will start to ease at that point, we will still have this concern later on this evening down near Buzzards Bay.
All right, Dylan, 9:36 right now on this Sunday morning as our coverage of Tropical Storm Irene continues. We've got Governor Patrick on the line with us this morning. Governor, first of all, if you could just give us your sense of preparations and how things are going as of right now.
Adam, good morning, and thank you for having me. Well, of course, we just are, the storm is just beginning to reach us. The worst of it has not, as your reporter was just saying. We don't expect the center of the storm to reach Massachusetts until 2 o'clock or so this afternoon, and the strongest winds won't get here for another hour and a half or so. But we're expecting the storm to track more to the western part of the state. Very, very heavy rain already in the western part of the state, and high surf and tide and wind picking up in the eastern part of the state.
We understand we're kind of in the thick of it, at least a lot of us, just as far as these bands. Obviously, the center of the storm, Governor, is kind of when things start to quiet down, which is, the eye is pretty calm, which is good. But as far as power outages go, we already have over 30,000. How long, any idea? I mean, I know we don't know how long it's going to take to get the power back up, but what are your thoughts on that as far as crews and manpower and what could happen here?
Ann, I'm sorry to say that my most current numbers are that we have over 40,000 customers now without power. Wow. That's the word I got just about 5 minutes before I got on the phone with you. In fact, I woke up myself without power this morning, and to my amazement, it was restored about 10 minutes of 8. There are extra crews that all of the utilities have called out and have deployed. To the extent it is safe, they are out doing clearing and cutting and power restoration right now. But they're going to have to concentrate on that mainly after the storm passes, starting tomorrow morning and through the rest of the day. The Connecticut power utility, I think it's WMECO, has just been hammered, and they do supply a lot of the central and western power sources, and so it may take a few days But we'll get a better sense of that once the rapid reconnaissance teams go out as of dawn tomorrow, when the storm is fully passed, and they can give us a sense of what the extent of the damage is and where we should concentrate our recovery efforts.
I think commuters want to hear it straight from the governor's mouth. Can you give us any idea about the MBTA? Will service be restored as normal tomorrow morning, Governor?
Adam, we hope so. You know, it's been suspended as of 8 o'clock this morning for safety reasons. As the storm passes through and we get a sense of what the debris is on the line and what the power issues are, we'll be able to give more definitive news, and we hope to be able to do that before the morning commute. But we're going to have to wait for the worst of the storm to pass us by before we can get a clear sense of what we're dealing with.
Are you encouraging business owners that can to allow people to work from home, possibly, to keep people off the roads?
You know, I don't want to offer an opinion on that yet. I can tell you that it's extremely important right now that people, and through the course of today, that people exercise extreme caution and stay indoors and off the roads, and as I said earlier, off the water as well. And then we will see, once the storm has passed, what the extent of the damage is, and we can give more informed advice then.
All right, Governor Patrick, thank you so much for your time. Good luck with all of the cleanup, and I hope your power stays on.
Good luck to us all. Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Adam.
Sure thing. All right, we're going to go back to Carter Evans right now down in New York to get a sense of it. That's Columbus Circle where you are right now?
Yeah, Columbus Circle behind me, and you were wondering if it was really Columbus Circle, I'm sure, because there are virtually no cars here. I mean, you never see this like this. You know, it appears that most New Yorkers heeded the warnings, but as you can see behind me, people are back out and about this morning. They're looking out the window and they're saying, Irene, really? This is it? You know, as far as intensity goes, the worst of it may be behind us. But I got to tell you, a different story in Lower Manhattan. I'm on high ground here. There's a lot of water moving into Lower Manhattan right now. It's the storm surge, and that's going to continue to be a problem for a while.
Any other problems? What about power in that area, Carter? The number right now is 4 million plus. What's it like there?
Yeah. We've got a lot of people without power. As far as the tri-state area, 1 million people without power. Real quick, though, I want to pan the camera over, and we'll show you something in Central Park. This literally just happened a few minutes ago. We heard a loud pop and almost like an explosion, and this very, very large tree just came down. Now, the conditions were much like they are right now. I would say fairly calm.
There, Todd, we're glad that you're staying safe and staying somewhat dry. I mean, Todd's been saying all morning that it's been the wind there. It hasn't been the rain. But unlike, you know, what we're seeing down in New York City, massive flooding there. Of course, the storm surge was expected. They shut down, you know, the subway in advance of it. People evacuated. Yeah, well, this is what New York residents are seeing. A seawall in Lower Manhattan has now been breached. A low-lying section of the promenade, this is hugging Battery Park, if you're familiar with that area, it is underwater. Water from the harbor lapping over the wall of the marina in front of the New York Mercantile Exchange, that's in Lower Manhattan. And that was one of the areas that they really were fearful of that could actually be, you know, affected with all this flooding. And, you know, they haven't seen flooding like that in a long time in New York. I mean, obviously, they're pretty resilient there. Yeah, but they were concerned about the low-lying areas, and they evacuated, I don't know how many people. But people and also hospitals in the area, brought other people to different areas, so, you know, higher levels there, so people were not in harm's way. All right, but here, we want to get the latest now on the roadways, because there's been some debris that's really been impacting travel. Dorothy, what's the latest? Well, for sure, guys, and we also have our fair share of flooding, and I'll tell you all about that in a second. First of all, so let's start with that flooding. Storrow Drive from the BU Bridge to Mass General, lots of water, standing water out on the highway. That's also the case along Quincy Shore Drive. Much of that is underwater. Also, Morrissey Boulevard, Dade Boulevard. Come with me to Framingham and Natick. Route 9, very delayed this morning because of all the standing water. And now the problems that come with the debris, with the water out there. 495, it's a rollover at Boston Road right in Westford. Watch for that. There's more of that flooding that I mentioned. That's in Natick. New Bedford, this is a serious crash on 140 northbound that we've been watching all morning. It's still out there at 195. No word when that's going to clear. And this is the kind of damage, these are the kinds of problems that we see during hurricanes. Lots of downed trees, downed wires. These are things we've been talking about all morning. But we want to remind you, because if you're going to head out the door, just get ready. You're going to find power outages. That means defective traffic lights. And yes, the old flooding, which
which we have plenty of already, and we'll see more probably. 93 right now, moving towards the deck, moving very slowly. The few folks who are out there are taking their time, and they should. Here's the expressway. What we can see of it, it's been difficult seeing in certain spots at times. The expressway right here, an awful lot of road spray, just the conditions. Stay home, keep the eye opener on, get your PJs on. No service this morning on the T. And by the way, in terms of air travel, it's not a good idea. Of course, most of the airports, including Logan, Manchester, TF Green, even though they're open, flights have been canceled, so staying home is advisable. And by the way, Randy and Bianca, there is no travel along the Northeast Corridor on Amtrak.
I know, a lot of people getting stuck. Dorothy, thank you so much. I know at some point, 9:43, the eye opener. We're going to be on for some time.
We'll be with you all day long.
We're going to have to transition into the afternoon here soon.
Let's check the conditions now on the South Coast. We want to go down to Marion. We might have to tie John Atwater down, but here's his report from Marion at this hour. John?
Hey, Randy, the good thing is I got a flagpole right here. I can just hang on, and I tell you, I can be pushed around pretty easily out here. 6'4", 200 pounds. I'm nothing for this wind. It's pushing me all around. Look at that, the spit blowing out of my mouth here. I can hardly talk. Hard to plant yourself when it's this windy, and I tell you, this is a sustained wind right now. This is not a gust. It's been like this for a while here. You can see all the plantings around this house that's boarded up. They're just blowing in the wind. Some of the sea foam here coming from the ocean right now. It has been high tide here, the water lapping against the seawall here. Not dealing with too much rain. We're getting a few sprinkles right now, but really it's a mist coming off of the ocean. I want to point out, maybe we can on the other side of this garage here, the stress that the wind is causing on some of these trees. For the last several hours, they have just been pushed in one direction. And down this roadway here, there's a big branch that's already come down. It took a telephone wire down with it. And they're reporting intermittent power outages here in Marion. There's some isolated power outages in the area, but as the wind continues, you can see the stress it's putting on these trees. One tree already giving way here. The power lines are still up, but they are waving in the wind here. And if you look at the weather vane on top of the garage here, you can see just how gusty it is as that whale spins around from east to west to south to north, all over the place. But you really have to keep yourself planted out here. There are some people who are staying here on the island. This is Planting Island.